Hello, and welcome to another installment of Ascending Women Live. Today we have Gennye, who's coming to talk to us about energetic solutions to embodied leadership, which is super exciting. I am new to the world of energetics myself over this year, but it's been really, really helpful for me to tap into that myself. So as always, I don't do huge introductions. I think everybody does a better job of telling the world what you do and why you do it. So I'll hand over to you and you can share what you do and a bit more about energetic solutions.
Yes. So I'm Gennye Lyon Rainbow Anderson. I have a business online. I have a community. I serve clients through energetics. So I, do healing and energy work on them. I also do business mentorship for spiritual business startups. So I'm working within that field. So like all my clients are pretty much, very interested in the energetics, of course, and see how that can sort of shift their lives and their businesses. And actually, you call this show Ascending Women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm kind of here to assist in the ascension process of the planet. So my mission is, I feel, is kind of beyond my own self sort of evolution almost, because I become self-evolved as I do this. But the mission is really, I feel like I'm a service soul. I feel like I've, come here to the planet this lifetime to really assist and help shift the consciousness level of humanity. Coming, well, we're still kind of in the dark ages in some areas of the world, coming into more of a much more conscious and enlightened way of living in everywhere. So in your personal life, in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here to assist with this.
In terms of so you work with people who may not always, but have a good understanding of energetics and how they can bring their work into the world and support others. For many of the women that are in Ascending Women and the network aren't necessarily in that field of work or had exposure to it. Are you able to bring to life a little bit what does energetic solutions kind of look like, and what does that mean to the layperson who's not well versed in that world?
There was a business coach told me once, you need to explain it like you're explaining to like a 6-year-old what you do, sort of thing, because it can be so okay with you, but people listening might not, really understand all of it. So if I explain it this way, instead of going into like, details about how energy works and everything, if I explain it in this way instead. So if you think of that we as a human race are actually coming from a place of information and intellect. Like we have evolved so much for the last sort of 200 years, and industry revolution, all these things. So like we inventors, we're really sort of using our intelligence to push forward in growth and society. So when it comes to energy, there is another power that we use, which is intuition. And we use our extrasensory gifts as opposed to just the intellect. Because like we've been taught to use the intellect, like we go to school for that, we learn things, we understand things, we become more educated. But the energetics is all about expanding your intuitive abilities, your extrasensory abilities, learning how you can navigate your life from your heart instead of your head. So this is where we're shifting from intellect into heart-based decisions. And that goes along with the intuition, because intuition and heart is kind of the same thing. And then if people are not aware of their higher power, or like they may not, I don't know about your audience, but they may have they might have an idea that we have sort of higher guidance, we can follow higher guidance. some people call that the universe, or we call it a higher self, or we call it, your soul, or whatever it is that feels like there's something more there. The more we can use navigation and guidance from that place and get out of our head, we will simplify and make our path to success a lot faster than if we're just trying to do it from the place of intellect. And that doesn't mean we're not using intellect. We're still using our intellect to understand things and to implement and to embody and things like that. But actually, this next evolution of the human race, is intuition. And that's what I do with my clients. So I actually help them embody their intuition, like really become this channel of higher knowing. And still use the brain, of course, and that's really kind of summarizing it in a very sort of like top level explanation. So
I think as well, from a leadership lens, often with leadership, you're looking externally. So you look at information, data, your colleagues, what they're providing you to weigh up and make plans or make decisions. And I guess what you're describing there is those things are all very valid. You do need to make, especially
you need statistics, you need all that.
But actually, there could be many situations where we overcomplicate the decision making because we gather information that we perhaps didn't need in order to just go with what our intuition's telling us, or even with all the data and all the different voices and influences that come from outside in, we're able to pick the one that our intuition was drawn to, as in how that's a. But I think so. Intuition's a fascinating subject. I love it. I think my journey with intuition is that as a child, I think it was very strong. Probably the same for many, many people. But the world that we live in hushes our intuition. It makes us second guess it, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
How would you? Is there anything that you can do, or sort of tips that people can take away, or activities to sort of help people train or reconnect with their intuition on a day-to-day basis? And I appreciate this is probably a whole world of work that you do on a regular basis, but
yeah, exactly.
Any snippets, anything that can help?
Yeah, so there's only really a couple of things that will block your intuition, and that's fear. So anyone who has fear and kind of run their life from a fear sort of basis or fear foundation really need to start to look at that fear and change that before they can even think about intuition, because the fear just blocks everything. It's just like you're in fight and flight, you're not connecting. It's like, you're just getting stressed, and you're overthinking everything, and you can't connect. So that's the one thing. So anyone who's got fear things, and it's not it's not a bad thing. It's just that we've got to overcome the fear and just be more in trust. And then the more we in trust, then the easier it becomes to connect with the higher knowing. If people are a lot in fear who's listening right now, that could be like micro fears as well, like overthinking everything, trying to sort of work out, do budgeting for things, getting scared, watching television and watching the media, and loads of things that kind of triggers those fears underneath. Anything that you could do to remove fear, that's my first thing with my clients. I'm like, we've got to remove the fear, because we'll try to work on that, instead. The second thing is, if you create space for yourself where you don't have no interaction, so that means maybe 20 minutes meditation, or you're walking, you're having a bath, no one's talking to you, the phone is off. You need this kind of space, this room with you and God, if you like, where you can actually receive information. And if you create that space every day, then you will be able to sort of start tapping into more of your intuition. These are just simple things, as in the fear thing is obviously could be quite difficult if somebody's really trapped in that thing. But I recommend then to go and look at things, how to deal with that. The third thing I would say is probably start doing things that will encourage it, as in like journaling. as in doing creative things like painting or singing. I mean, it sounds a bit odd maybe, but doing things that are connected with your creativity, that is actually sort of connecting you with your spirit almost, that will then increase intuition. Because all of these things are very sort of high in the collective, there's lots of fear, there's not enough room for yourself, you're not enough creative, and you don't do things you love enough. Maybe I'm not talking, there's going to be people who do that, of course, but in terms of creativity, then the intuition is like really compressed or really suppressed. So it's about changing the way we're doing things. And I also talk about that all those things that are sort of structured, data, statistics, steps, fear, this is how we do it, it's quite masculine.
Yeah.
And obviously the corporate is very masculine in the way of like how they create the results and everything, right? But what I'm talking about is feminine, because that's like creating more room for yourself, removing the fear, trusting more, not being over analytic, trusting your heart. That's all feminine energies. So it's about still having the stability and having the steps within the business that you're running, but allowing all these new energy, the feminine energies, to come in and to practice them. I'm just categorizing them really now, but it kind of makes sense to people probably if I say it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting just to draw upon a couple of things. Are you saying there? So fear and trust, it's there can be pockets of things in life that you say that fear is actually something that is a natural physiological response that to keep us safe. But we, in our day-to-day world, we're not actually being chased down by lions and having real fear and danger, predatorial, and that our ancestors would have. But we do go into places that don't always feel safe. So those feelings of unsafe feelings create, I think, this kind of constant ebb of fear, perhaps, or behaviors that come from that like high stress state. And it's interesting to say that blocks it, but on the other flip side, the trusting. So I think decision making as one of the core leadership skills. If we're not feeling that safe in the process because we're leaning in that space of fear, but then it's quite hard to connect or listen in. And from what I'm hearing you're saying is like the trust aspect, the trusting in yourself, trusting in all the little signals that we're giving off permanently about the information we're receiving, and then how we're processing that and then responding with the world. Having that trust and faith in yourself to be able to like hear almost. Am I saying that's it's like an inner voice? Because I think it's bigger than that. I think the sensations are bigger than that.
Okay.
I guess that trust. If so, fear is a huge topic, isn't it? And I think it's to help people to. It's not to be scared of yourself, I guess, in many instances, not to be scared to trust it, even if you can't quite trust the entire world, or you can't quite find safety especially in a corporate world. If you can just spend more time quietly by yourself, connecting with yourself and leaning into trusting yourself, that would be a really solid start, wouldn't it?
Well, that's a good start, because that's why I talk about embodied leadership, because when that happens on an individual level, if you're a leader and you're listening to this and you are tapping into that inner power, because I talk about 7 areas of leadership where we need to be balanced in. I can go through them very, very briefly, not over people, but in a moment. What happens is that when you tap into that inner power and the trust, you emanate that, because everything is energy. So if you walk into a room fully grounded, fully trusting in the process, you've got this, you felt it in your body, you feel like so connected with this new project, and you can see it, you visualize it, you're dreaming about it, whatever. If you have that within your body, actually you can feel it. Then when you deliver to your colleagues and you deliver to your team, well, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel whether that comes from your heart and your power, or whether that comes from a script that you're just reading, or you know what I mean? So this is also, humanity is becoming more sophisticated, and people they just realize that they're becoming more sophisticated in their intuition, which means then that the old ways they're just going to go, that doesn't sit right with me, or I don't connect with that, I don't agree with that, I don't know what it is, I don't like it. So people are getting more like savvy, So it's important for leaders to become embodied leaders energetically, so that the co-workers and the team members who are also awakening, if you like, or evolving and advancing, getting more sophisticated, can tap into this field, because it's like we're tapping into a field of something else. And so that's why I talk about this, because if the leaders can become embodied leaders through energetics, they can take all their knowledge and all their experience and all the things that they're passionate about, bring that forward into whatever the project, the team, plus they have the faith and the connection to it, and the passion for what they're doing as well, and the clarity and the embodied thing. So they then become really magnetic. The team want to work with them. Okay.
That's really powerful, because I think sometimes in the corporate world, we're very compartmentalized and systematic about things, particularly skill sets. Whereas this isn't something that some leaders will perhaps be doing some of this without even realizing. They may already be magnetic.
Naturally.
Naturally. But honing it and understanding it and having the awareness of it is kind of saying, well, actually, your awakening is more the awakening of the awareness, so that you can use it as a tool, instead of it being something that's kind of dormant or there and, not sleeping half the time in the background.
Yeah.
And for other leaders, it may not be turned on. It may be something that's been suppressed over the years that they're not really having an opportunity to leverage.
Exactly.
So they're not making as great impact as they'd like to. I'd love you to share those 7 layers of leadership then. I know that you may just be giving what they are as opposed to how they work.
Right, yeah. So I work with the energy centers of the body as well. So I come from a physiotherapy body sort of background as well. So I understand the human body. I have anatomy physiology. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I understand this. So I have the physiology side of things and how the body works, and also the energetics, which means that I work with the energy centers, which are, you may have heard of them, the chakras that they go through the body, but you have many energy centers of the body. So it's not just those, but I start with health. Like I speak about, the health in someone, and we can go in, it has many subcategories, and I'm not going to go into them, but we understand that they are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And I also use a measure system so that people can say, okay, well, how good is my physical health? Like, is it a 2 of a 10 or is it a 6 of a 10, right? Because if the health is not in reasonable sort of, reasonable health, if you like, we're not in reasonable health, some of the other places, the other 6 categories are going to break, because like your body is holding everything, and your health needs to be in a good way. We're not talking about top athletes here, but it's more like, look, are you having a healthy, balanced diet? Are you taking breaks? Are you drinking enough water? Are you taking some exercise? Like, do you know what I mean? Are you looking after your body? So we have that sort of basics. Then I talk about wealth. So everyone's going to be like, yes, wealth. So when it comes to wealth, I talk about it from an energy perspective and a well-being perspective. So if you feel wealthy, this is how the law of attraction works as well, by the way. If we feel wealthy, safe, and we are trusting, we will attract that. That means more money as well. So if we feel wealthy, because you can be cash rich but poor. Can you see what I mean? But you can be wealthy emotionally and spiritually and still, I mean, I wouldn't say maybe poor, but you can still have an average wage with the aim of creating more money as well. But you're better off having a wealthy energetics and feeling wealthy within, and then start building your wealth, than to be cash rich and feeling poor. Because we don't want to feel this way. We want to feel happy and wealthy in our lives, like that we appreciate everything that we have, our family and the connections that we have. We want to feel good, want to wake up and feel good. So talk about the wealth in this way. The next thing I talk about is power. And this is not like power as in overpowering. It's more like your own personal power. And if this personal power is not locked in fully, this is when we go into people pleasing. This is when we're not speaking up. This is when we stop trusting what we're feeling. This is, the not feeling that we are good enough, or, all sorts of things. And it will play out in this, in the corporate as well, where there's maybe a lot of competition, perhaps. This power can be misused, and people can become maybe climbing on each other instead of sort of lifting each other up. Maybe they can be a bit competitive, and sort of it doesn't feel honest, and the integrity might not be great, right? Things like that. So if we are in our power and we not compromise on integrity, and we're not compromise on authenticity, over the long run, we will overrun that will overrun everything that is not in integrity, and that is not in for the greatest good, if that makes sense, for everyone's greatest good. And this is where we're moving into, like, the new world. So that's the power. The next thing is relationships. So look, relationships are your colleagues, relationships are your family, relationships, the people you love, all these things. First of all, within career and work, if we have great relationships, that means sales often, because people don't buy things, they buy people, right? So relationships are really good. So the more we can do, really create great relationships and collaborations with others, that will obviously often increase sales for the company, profit increases. But it also means that you want to have a good relationship with your loved ones. Think of having a great career and then you are at work 16 hours a day and you not see your family. That's not a really nice balance, right? You're missing something there. You're not feeling connected then to the people that you love, or you don't have as much time with them, so it doesn't feel balanced. It's out of balance, right? The next one is communication. So communication, I feel, is probably one of the most important things to evolve humanity, because if we can speak from a place of integrity and a place of non-violent communication, transparency, like owning our stuff, being upfront with things that's gone wrong and say, I'm sorry. Like, it's just so much within communication that can increase the whole success of an organization. Do you know what I mean? It's systems of communication.
Listening to the communication.
Listening, exactly. I mean, if anything, it's listening. This is saying that if you could listen as much, doubles as much as you speak, then you have great communication. So yeah, very good. And then the next one is your intuition. And this was what we were talking about in the beginning. So it's a thing that's been over sort of maybe sort of like, parked over there a little bit. So the more we include intuitive decisions, so if something feels right and it's intuitive, then I believe that in companies and larger organizations, if we can back it up with some data, that will then be stronger. So then as we transition, because all the decisions that are made are often made out of what data we've got or what seems to be a good idea, sort of thing. Have we measured this? But if we can bring intuition into it and have some data as well, then we can sort of start proving that the intuition is working, if that makes sense. Because we've always worked on things what it's proved to work, which is what we make decisions on often, right? but how can we trust the intuition and then start making decisions based on the intuition, and then start collecting data that this intuition was working, and then we can log that. I feel this is something that could be, expanded on. The next thing is mission. So if the person working in an organization feels connected to the task and the sort of mission, the overall sort of project that they're working on, if they feel connected to it and it feels like it's a part of their mission to do this, then it feels exciting for them to do it. If they're disconnected from the mission, this is where they push themselves to perform in their position, where they feel like disconnected to the cause. And when you start feeling disconnected to the cause, that's when you start feeling really, it's hard to do it because it doesn't light you up. And if it doesn't light you up, it's resistance. And some people will not know this. It's almost like they feel resistance, but they're like, I love my colleagues' relationships. I feel good. My body's good. Like I love this. I feel I'm getting paid well. But there's that piece missing. So with using these 7 categories, we can detect where the missing link is in leadership, because there will be something or some area where the person feels unfulfilled, and we can find out where that is. And then when that gets tweaked and increased, if you like, the person feel happy and then can become much more powerful in their leadership. That's it. 7.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I love how for something that some people may resist, because it feels maybe a little bit too hippie or a little bit too out there. Actually, there's a lot of structure there and strategy behind a holistic view of the leader to say, you need all these aspects, and you need, just like you need your core leadership skills, you also need as a leader to have this holistic view of self and alignment, where you are it makes sure you're balancing all of those. So I like the structure. It's one of those things, sometimes structure gives you freedom to sort of play around, or provides, as we said before, that level of safety, instead of it being too unknown. There's there's these 7 areas, and as an individual I can explore those. I'm sure most people could go, so however they interpret some of those areas, my health is good, I don't feel prosperous, I don't feel wealthy in my life, I'm lacking something, or feeling so I need to focus on that. But intuition, what's that? Mission, I know what my company wants to do, but I don't know how I'm participating in that. And sometimes that is, especially in large corporations, if you own your own business, if you are a leader of a smaller company, chances are most of the people working in that company are quite close to the end result and the mission and values of that company. When you have very large corporations, that can get diluted down so much that the project you're working on over here needs to be done. It's really important, but it's how does that not just have an impact on its own, but how does that play into like the bigger cause? What sustainable goal is it contributing to? How is it changing the world? And that helps us get that purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's not that we have to be perfectionists and have to have a 10 out of 10 in all of these areas. It's more like, some of my clients, when I work with them, I always test them. So if they say like it's a 2 in communication, I'm like, well, we need to work on this at the moment, because you're not expressing yourself, you're not sharing, you're not taking space. Where if that's an entrepreneur, or if they're working somewhere, it's like we need to improve that. So there's always going to be something that needs a little bit of improving, because no one's perfect. But I believe using this holistic sort of template, if you like, of a leader, and then still, use the traditional leadership sort of templates that is, or skills that are needed. I feel like you can merge the intellectual with the intuitive, and kind of, make it, better, actually, make it a lot better. And then there's different processes that are used to enhance, to get a better result in each area. But it's also very sort of client-led. So when people are talking to me, they'll be like, I want to work on this today. It's like, I'm out on this one. I need, help on this one. So then I let the clients decide as well as to what they want to work on each time. But they obviously in programs, so it's like a progress over time. We do progress over time. Yeah.
And I guess it's something that, and certainly with the ladies that I work with a similar framework, it's not quite the same, but my success wheel, and we have different sections as well as the Ascending Woman model, and it's a benchmark. So you're able to go, where are you here? How do you score here? How do you score then a month later? How do you score? You can take that off into your life and kind of self-assess even when you're not working with a coach.
Yes.
And I think one of the most important things is to always know your health can change. Your purpose can change. All these things are very transient. So at any given moment, one might just go off, and it needs a bit of nurturing or a bit of rebalancing. So having that tool sheet, having that ability and understanding of how that works, you can continue to monitor when something goes,
exactly. Exactly. And it can be clients I haven't seen for 6 months, and I say to them, so how are you rating yourself? Do you know what I mean? Let's do the rating. How are you rating yourself right now? And they will just then tell me. And so I give the power to them as well to rate themselves. It's not about me saying, how are you really, I think you're doing this. It's like I'm giving them the power to say, well, no, this is not working for me, this area here. Obviously they feel safe enough to share that. So
it's
so
it's
brilliant. Yeah, it is. And I'm in a process of even creating like a coaching program for companies that I want to bring in, which I haven't done yet. So I've worked mostly with entrepreneurs, but I'd like to bring it in. I've had some clients working in corporate, but I haven't worked with the actual company, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I have some ideas about how to make this like a coaching, course or something. So it's in progress.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, I definitely think this is kind of the purpose of my network, and the work that I do is to enable corporate worlds to, not just on the individual level, but on a company level, to change, to kind of own the weaknesses, own the areas that don't necessarily always work for people. Because when it does work, and this is from my experience, working in a corporation is one of the most magical things that I've ever experienced. The large scale change, the opportunity, the great vibes, the great teams. There is so much velocity and excitement and adventure there that can be held. Yeah. There is also the downside that if you don't have your individual power and balance and understanding of where you fit into the whole model, that you can get sucked up and carried along on somebody else's version of success, somebody else's journey. There are toxic people, there are toxic cultures, but on the whole, it's a fabulous place to be. And I kind of want more people to love corporate. And so sharing insight from yourself and some of the other leaders out there that are helping develop our own personal awareness and how we show up in the world, how we lovingly empower each other is what this space is all about. And I think what you've shared this today is a really exciting aspect of it. So I'm sure we don't always have that many people join us in the day, but the catch-ups, if anyone's got any questions or they want to find out more about embodied leadership, where's the best place for them to go?
Look, you can find me on here on LinkedIn. So it's my name, Gennye Lyon Rainbow Anderson. You can also go to my website, which is gennylyon.love. But if you Google it, you'll find loads of places. But if you prefer LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect or answer questions if anyone had questions in the chat as well. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to anyone watching, make sure you are signed up to the Ascending Woman network so you can catch this chat and all the other chats on demand, as well as all the other goodness that sits within our Power Portal. And that's it for today. So I'm going to close the broadcast. Thank you so much, Gennye, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.